thank you for coming back to my channel. Today is going to be kind of a sensitive subject for me. It's going to be dealing with the first half of my life, like the first 17, 18 years. And a trigger warning that there will be some childhood trauma in forms of, well, in several different forms, as well as harming oneself, and just stuff like that. But let's just go ahead and dig into it. And this will kind of show a lot of why I am the way I am now, and why I deal with some of the stuff I deal with now. But I was born in Dallas, Texas on August 27th, 1987 at 12:32 a.m. And I pretty much shot out like a football. I was 8 pounds, 9 ounces. So, you know, I was kind of a big baby. I do have an older sister who was about 1.5 years at that point. But then we kind of moved around to a few different places. Whenever I hit kindergarten, pre-K and kindergarten, we were in Granbury, Texas. I think it was pre-K when they found out that I was partially deaf. My parents just thought I was ignoring them until my teacher said something to them. But thankfully it was easily fixed with getting my adenoids and my tonsils out and getting tubes in my ears. And it was a lot tougher back then. It wasn't a day surgery. I had to stay out of school for like a month. And it was, I still kind of remember it. Apparently the first time it rained, it like scared the crap out of me. I don't know. But so there was that. But I was always a big reader, even from a very young age. And I love to read. And so I was what they call a shy kid. I had friends, but I didn't have a lot, and I didn't have like super close friends. Even kind of just growing up, I always kind of felt like I was the one left out. And so about halfway through my kindergarten year, we moved to Azle, Texas. But we still continued my kindergarten year in Granbury, so we had to drive back and forth every day. Then first grade, I started in Azle, and I stayed there until my 10th grade year. But a lot happened in between there. So whenever I was 9, my mom left my dad for several reasons. And then so we stayed with my mom for a little bit. But then it was probably maybe a month, and then we both my sister and I moved in with my dad. And so it was just us 3 until I was about 13, whenever he got remarried. And it was a woman that we knew. I'm not even gonna go into it. But we knew this woman and her 3 kids just very well. And then so after like 6 weeks, they got married. And it started out okay. But at that point, you know, I was 13, 14 years old. And all of a sudden I had a stepsister who was in the same grade as me, and then 2 younger brothers. And my biological sister was going through her own kind of stuff, dealing with her own stuff. And there was a lot of talking badly between my stepmother and my stepsister. They would literally stand outside of my bedroom door and call me a fat bitch, a dumb bitch, say that I was useless, and that I needed to realize how fat I was. And at this point, I'm like 125 pounds, or like a size 4 and extra small and stuff like that. By no means was I fat. And then they would also talk about my dad and say that he was just absolutely useless. He just didn't do anything and just all this kind of stuff. But she wouldn't do it whenever he was home. But that went on for years. And at one point I did end up having to go to a mental hospital for about a week or so because I forgot exactly what happened, but I basically told her that I would rather no longer be on earth than live with her anymore. And she ended up hitting me in the leg. I had a huge bruise all over my thigh and my ass cheek. So she took me to the hospital because I said I would rather be anywhere than here. And on the way, she decided that she was going to stop a cop and say that she wanted to press charges on me because I had scratched her trying to get her off of me. I was 13, almost 14 at this point. She was like in her 30s. And he said I could press charges, but she could also press charges, so we'd both be going to jail. I said, no, just take me to the freaking hospital. So I stayed there, and then after that, I just kind of pretended like everything was okay as long as I could, while I was still harming myself. There was one time in particular where it was not just me harming, it was me trying to go off the deep end with an entire economy-sized bottle of Tylenol. And it should have hit me right then and there that I'm not meant to leave this earth yet, because that many should have just ended me, but it didn't. But for the next 2 days, I was sitting there throwing up for about 15 minutes. Every 15 minutes, I'd be throwing up. And so they just thought I was sick, had a stomach bug. So instead of just letting me stay home and letting all the other siblings go to school, my stepmom had all of them stay home so that they could basically torture me while I was torturing myself. And then, so I had been going to this school since 1st grade, and then about my 10th grade year, my stepmom was trying to get us to move to Mineola, which is in East Texas. It was quite a long drive. And these are people that, I mean, I'm losing all of my friends because I was in the marching band, I was in a couple clubs. I had just made the Emerald Dazzlers, which is the drill team, and all this kind of stuff. And then so finally, the summer before I started 11th grade, she moved us to Mineola. And then that just started a whole lot more. So whenever I moved there, I went from a school from probably about 5,000 to about 500. And it was a tiny little bitty retirement town. But thankfully I did meet one person, and he was my high school sweetheart. We dated for all of 11th and 12th grade. And then I just have to say that I haven't talked to him in like 15 years, but I had to say I'm very thankful for him, and you'll see why later. But nothing really changed with my stepmom and my stepsister and me. Unfortunately, these people at my new school, they didn't know me. And so my stepsister went around telling everybody that I was a bitch and that I lied and that they shouldn't be friends with me. But thankfully, some people saw past that. And so my senior year, I was runner-up for class favorite. And then I was senior princess for homecoming. And so I mean, I wasn't unpopular, but you know, people like me. But then halfway through my senior year, my dad decided that he was finally going to leave my stepmother. And he was going to move in with my grandparents in Pembroke, which was a long drive. And I said, I really don't want to have to move again, especially halfway through my senior year. And then so I was like, if I can find anybody else to live with, can I please just stay? And he was like, if you can find somebody, yes. And then so, thank God for this amazing woman. But my high school sweetheart's mother let me move in with her family, and she treated me like I was her daughter, and I will never ever forget what she did for me. So for the last semester of my high school year, I was one of her children, and it was absolutely amazing. And I don't think I ever appreciated it while I was going through it. But growing older, it was just, she was a saint. Especially because I was going through like severe depression, obviously. And she tried to help me as much as she possibly could. And then, so a couple weeks after my dad left my stepmom, he decided that he was going to go back to her. And of course, he wanted me to come and live with them again, and I said no. And then, so I tried to explain to him about what happened and why I would no longer be staying with them since I had another option. And I refused to live that way anymore. And so I went to talk to him at the house in Mineola, and I finally told him everything about how her and my stepsister had just stood there and talked all of this stuff about me and him. I didn't cut that. For some reason my phone stopped recording. But anyways, I had told my dad everything about what they had been talking about. And so he grabbed my arm and he pushed me down and he said, "Get the hell out of my house." And I said, okay. So I went back to where I was living. And then my dad and my stepmom tried to manipulate it and make it sound like I had run away and that I was telling all these lies about them, and that basically what a horrible human being I was, because I decided to tell the truth. And then so my grandparents, my paternal grandparents, they well, up until the day they died, they did not like my stepmother. And they did everything they could in order to make sure that I wouldn't have to deal with that. Because my biological dad and my stepmom, they bought my stepsister a car. But then whenever I turned 16 a couple months later, they said, "Oh, you can have the old Lincoln Town car." My grandpa, my dad's dad, said no. So he went out and bought me a car. A really nice one that I absolutely loved. I wish I still had it. But he made sure that whatever my stepmom did for her children, I would get better. And that was everything. I'm so thankful for the people I had in my life. And I'm so thankful for the people I have in my life. And at this point, you're probably wondering, like, what is happening with, like, my mom and my sister. My sister was dealing with her own traumas, and my mom was dealing with her own traumas. And I don't blame either one of them but trying to be as far away from that trauma as possible, because I wish I could have been as far away as possible. But so finally graduating from high school, and it was bittersweet. While I wish that I had done things differently in high school, I'm glad it's over, because it was, being a depressed teen is one thing, but being a depressed teen and being told that what a horrible person you were at the same time is kind of like on a whole other. Okay, sorry, I had to delete some cat pictures apparently. So, okay, where was I? So I graduated high school, and my mom, she had remarried at this point. So her and my stepdad came, my now ex-stepdad, and my grandparents came, and obviously since my stepsister was graduating the same day, my dad and my stepmom came, and they tried to sit there and act like nothing was wrong. They tried to get me and my stepsister to take pictures with each other for the optics and stuff like that, and I was like, no, sorry. But besides that, you know, it was just a typical graduation day, I guess. And then, so at that point, like, I didn't apply to college. I didn't really do anything because I didn't really believe that I had a future. I was very deep into depression at this point, and so probably about a month after graduation, I broke it off with my high school sweetheart, and then I moved in with my paternal grandparents. And then I decided that I was going to go to a community college near my mom's house. So I moved in with her and her husband at the time. And then I was living there for about a semester. And then I'm just gonna say it was not a good time in my mom's life, and she went through way more than she ever should have, ever. A woman this absolutely amazing should never have gone through what she did, but she allowed herself to go through it. So therefore I decided to move into the dorms, even though the school was only like about 20-minute drive away. And then I stayed the weekends at my paternal grandparents' house. And I think that kind of does it for the first like 18 years of my life. Unfortunately, that's not even the bad half of my life. So much stuff happened after that was just so much more. And this isn't even talking about some of the stuff that happened whenever I was just basically a baby in like my 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, because there was a family friend who was a few years older than us that took advantage of the youth of some family members and myself. So there was, seeing with the traumatic events doesn't even begin to cover it. And even just what I talked about here doesn't begin to cover it. It was something that no child should ever have to go through. But I went through it. And I would love to say that it made me a better person, but it didn't. It made me feel an even... Sorry, I did have to pause for a second. But I went through things that nobody should ever go through. No child should ever go through. And It has not made me a better person. It made me feel like I deserved all the bad things that have happened to me. And it has taken 35 years to realize that nobody deserves it. Maybe one day I'll get into like the second half of my life, but I think that might take a lot more. Because as traumatic as this was, doesn't even compare. So I think that is it for today. That is the first 18 years of my life. Yeah, traumatic, and depressing. But I'm here. I'm 35 now. I'm here. So what more could I ask for? So I hope y'all enjoy the pictures that I'm posting after this. And I hope that you will tune in a few days for my next video. Hopefully I'm going to try to make it something a little bit more upbeat. Who knows though. So please make sure to like and subscribe. And please share with your family and friends and everything, because I would love to get my subscriber count up. If I ever make it to 1,000, there we go. If I ever make it to 1,000 subscribers, I will tell the story from 18 until current times. And it's a doozy. So I love you all, and I'll see you all in a few days. Bye.